I know every corner of these lands, every language spoken, every war waged, every deal struck. They call me Mimir, smartest man alive. And I have the answer to your every question.
Why does the son of Odin hunt us?
Okay, there are a few gaps in my knowledge. But Odin's had me imprisoned here for 109 winters. I'm a clever lad. I can piece it together. Promise. Just given time.
If Kratos is the face of God of War and Atreus has become the heart and soul of the series with its 2018 game, then Mimir has probably become the brains of the franchise, almost literally. The talking, disembodied head was introduced to the series for the very first time with the 2018 game, but he played a crucial role in its story as one of the three main characters, right alongside Kratos and Atreus. And there's no doubt that he will play a similar role in God of War Ragnarok, so in preparation of the long-awaited sequel's launch in November, here we'll be going over the full story of Mimir. Though Mimir's time with Kratos and Atreus is more than a little eventful, there's a lot that happens in his life before he ever meets the father and son pair. And these things continue to prove instrumental to God of War 2018's backstory throughout the experience. Norse mythology describes Mimir as the maternal uncle of Odin, and someone who was always deeply embroiled in the region's happenings, though God of War's take on the character's backstory is a slightly different one. They both wind up in the same place, but they take different routes to get there. In God of War, Mimir hails from a faraway land, much like Kratos himself, though what land he hails from is never mentioned. Once hailing as the unofficial jester of an unnamed king, Mimir's mischievous antics earn him the ire of the man he was serving under, which, for reasons unspecified, led to him being forced into exile. Leaving his home, he traveled for a long time, ever northward, until he eventually arrived in the Nine Realms, where he quickly learned of Odin as the most powerful and influential figure alive, and decided to instantly align himself with him. Seeking out Odin through a combination of trickery and hard truths, Mimir convinced Odin that he was an endless well of knowledge and wisdom. Unbeknownst to Mimir, Odin obviously knew that Mimir was trying to trick him, but seeing the value in what Mimir had to offer, ended up hiring him anyway, and that's despite the fact that his trick cost Odin one of his eyes. Mimir was made Odin's primary advisor and given the role of representing Aesir as their ambassador in negotiations and interactions with all the other realms and their denizens. And in spite of how it started out, and in spite of the fact that initially his role was ultimately simply to be a yes man to Odin and his actions, Mimir eventually started taking his job very seriously. While Odin was a deeply paranoid and unrelentingly cruel figure and often sought out brutal conflicts with rules of the other realms, especially between the Vanir and Jotnar, Mimir took it upon himself to try and hold his master back to the best of his ability because, in his view, achieving peace between all nine realms was the best way to go about preventing Ragnarok. One of the many things that leads to this is Mimir brokering a peace between the Aesir and the Vanir to bring an end to their long and bloody conflict. On his advice, Odin ends up marrying the leader of the Vanir, Freya, who incidentally ends up fostering a deep hatred for the man for playing his part in that marriage. Shifting his attention to the Aesir's other great enemies, the Giants, Mimir, who learns to speak in their tongue, befriends many of them, to the point where they even gift him with a Bifrost crystal, placed in his left eye to make travel between realms easier and more convenient for him. Odin, however, remains as paranoid as ever, and he isn't a big fan of Mimir's friendliness with the Giants. After ordering Thor to go on a murderous rampage that ends up killing most of Jotnar, Odin also decides to punish Mimir for his purported betrayal. He binds him permanently to a tree on top of the highest peak in Midgard, and scoops out the Bifrost crystal in his left eye. His magic also makes it so that the tree is completely indestructible. Even to Thor's mighty Mjolnir, Mimir is doomed to spend eternity there, though Kratos and Atreus end up throwing a wrench into Odin's plans. Over 100 years after Mimir's imprisonment, Mimir is visited by Thor's sons, Magni and Modi, who come asking him about the whereabouts of the father and son pair. Mimir, who has no love for the pair or the Aesir in general, blatantly refuses to help them in any manner, though even if he wanted to, he wouldn't be able to, owing to the concealing ward placed on Kratos and Atreus by Freya. Soon after Thor's sons leave, Kratos and Atreus arrive on top of the peak and find Mimir, where they learn from him that they've arrived at the long place if they do indeed want to spread Freya's ashes on the highest peak of all the realms. He tells them that the highest peak is actually in Jotunheim and agrees to help them get there. There is, of course, the small matter of him being bound to a tree made of invincible wood for all eternity, though Mimir, as a self-styled smartest man alive, has a solution for that as well. He tells Kratos to cut his head off and then take it to someone with the kind of magic that could resurrect it. Conveniently enough, Kratos just happens to know the Witch of the Woods, aka Freya. Their plan is successful, and after Mimir's head reawakens, following which he tells Kratos and Atreus about Freya's true identity as the leader of Vanir and the estranged wife of Odin, he ends up joining the pair on their journey to get to the highest peak in Jotunheim. As you may have guessed, Mimir plays a crucial role in God of War 2018 from that point onward. Not only does he insist on more than one occasion that Kratos come clean with Atreus about the boy's true nature and heritage, he is also right there with Kratos when he retrieves the Blades of Chaos, and then later when he was a vision of Zeus in Helheim. Putting two and two together, he quickly realizes that Kratos is none other than the fabled Ghost of Sparta, though of course Kratos himself isn't too thrilled at being called that. The one thing that Mimir is unable to help Kratos and Atreus with is deciphering the cause of Baldur's invincibility, though as the game's concluding acts draw closer, Kratos is able to figure out that the reason for that is a spell by Freya, which compels Mimir not to reveal any knowledge about what makes Baldur invincible, and how to break that invincibility spell. Eventually that spell is broken, of course, and Baldur is killed by Kratos, after which the father and son duo head to Jotunheim to finally spread Faye's ashes on the highest peak in all the realms. Mimir decides to stay behind with Brok and Sindri while they do that, wanting to give them some personal space while they did what needed doing. When they return, however, he tells them that they've been gone longer than they thought. In their absence, Freya has gone seeking out her Valkyrie wings, while the death of Baldur has also caused the beginning of Fimbulwinter, the precursor to Ragnarok. A few centuries before it was supposed to happen, that is where we leave things off with God of War 2018, with Kratos and Atreus back in their cabin in the woods and Mimir living with them there as a talking, disembodied head. He will, of course, be back as one of the primary characters in God of War Ragnarok, though what role he plays in the sequel and whether he is able to survive its inevitably momentous events remains to be seen. Thankfully, we don't have to wait too long to find out. That's all for now. If you enjoy what you saw, please hit the like button. And if you're new to the channel, now is a great time to subscribe. We upload brand new videos every single day. After subscribing, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you next time, right here on Gaming Bolt.